Today we're talking about the surprising price of the PlayStation 5 Pro, Helldivers 2's latest Warbond, and revealing which games we'd quit after only playing 1 hour. Plus, Warhammer 40k Space Marines 2 put up some impressive numbers for its launch this week, but what happened to its physical discs? Stick around to find out. Welcome, friends, to this week's episode of Good Playing With You, the weekly gaming podcast. I'm Dan Whitehill, and as always, I'm joined by our Good Playing Good buddies, Matt Lord.
Hey, how's it going?
And Matt Molding.
Hey now.
Before we jump into the headlines, let's check in with my garrulous group of Matts and find out what everyone's been playing this week. Lord?
Oh, it was kind of a slow week for me. Not gonna lie. I'm kind of embarrassed by it, but I did.
Amateur.
It's just amateur hour over here. I don't know what I'm doing, boys. It's like, do I have a video game podcast or host? I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm doing. No, I did get some Fortnite in with a friend of the pod, Andrew. Big shout out there. He and we had actually a full squad. And
nice. And how are you liking the new weapons? Because to be honest with you, you can't get to the end of the game unless you are maxed out with all of the Marvel stuff. And you need like 5 Marvel weapons. You need the shield, you need the turret, you need like everything, the gauntlets. Like if you don't have those, you can't get to the end of the game. And it's kind of starting to bug me. It's like last season where you had to have a car to get to the end of the game. Now, if you don't get the Marvel stuff, you're asked out. Is that what you're finding? Or is it just me being mid?
You took the words right out of my mouth. The big one that I think is most key, I do think the gloves, the shield, the yada yada, I think the jetpack is the one.
Yes.
War Machine's jetpack. That, I forget Fortnite has a mobility problem. I hate to say it. Like the stamina is very low, and and if you don't have something like a jetpack, especially end game, you have these dudes flying around you, lasering you, and if you're not on their level, you're gonna lose. And Of course the shield is very OP. The gloves, the Black Panther gloves are very OP. I agree with you. I feel like that shouldn't be those shouldn't be must-haves to win, and I've seen that every end game it's always that way.
Yep.
So there's been that. And then I did pick up Terminator Resistance for $10 on Steam and I played about an hour of that on the Steam Deck this week. And that is actually surprisingly a cool game. A lot of people, some people say it's flown under the radar. It's a survival RPG shooter. It kind of has like an Assassin's Creed feel with that, there's a lot of like menuing and you have like different stats to build up and you're fighting robots. It's pretty sweet. I'm enjoying it so far. I'll keep everyone updated. And then of course played a little Castlevania this week as well on the Xbox. We have more of that to come. But that's been it for me.
Nice. Molding?
I finished Kunitsu Gami, Path of the Goddess. I don't usually finish games, but I finished that one, and I've raved about it the last couple of weeks. It's just such a great Game Pass game. It was relatively quick. I was happy I didn't buy it. I was happy I got it through Game Pass. I really enjoyed it. I finished it. I'm never going to play it again. And I think that is just a great Game Pass game, which I really had fun with. I then started playing Core Keeper, which came out, I think, late last week. It's similar to Stardew Valley, except you're underground. There's some farming elements to it, a lot of exploration, there's some like Minecraft-ish sort of things with it. I burnt out on it real quick. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. I put probably 15 hours into it.
You put a lot of time on it because I saw you on Xbox and I was about to jump in and join you, but I didn't. But I don't like the game either, so I didn't.
Yeah, the exploration's fun. I die a lot, but that's okay. I'm playing on a harder difficulty, as we know I like to do.
Of course.
There's just something about it. There's definitely some secrets there that are waiting to be found out. I do recommend it if you like both Minecraft and Stardew Valley. I felt really lonely in it. Stardew Valley, you have all the townsfolk that you can interact with. This game, it's just you. I did get a couple pets. That's fun. But, try it out. Game Pass. Try it out. You might like it. I did then start playing Darkest Dungeon, which is another Game Pass game. I played a lot of indie games this week.
Nice. I saw you on that, Malding. What is your take on Darkest Dungeon? Because I have some thoughts.
Yeah, it's gosh, what do I think about it? It's stressful. It's extremely stressful. And sometimes I'm just not in for that kind of stress because you're constantly being diseased or stressed out in the game. Your characters get stressed out, or my
Yeah, I was
life
gonna say, you should be
fading.
used to that.
Yeah, I definitely am, especially being your friend for so long. So there's all of that I have in my normal life that I don't necessarily want in my game, and so I think I'll probably not continue with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my three.
I played that on the Switch, and
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, besides like everything that you just said and how stressful it is, the text in that game was insanely small. I needed like a magnifying glass to read on the screen, which was like a kind of like a well-known issue with that game. And I gotta agree, it was just such a stress-inducing game. And then once your character dies, you're just like, all right, see you later. You're not coming back.
Yeah.
Like, see you later.
And I hit this point just on this playthrough where lots of my characters have been dead. I only had 2 characters that were leveled up enough to play the levels. And then I had my 0 level characters that can't participate in those levels. So maybe I'm missing something where you can bring down the difficulty of those areas. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I couldn't figure it out.
I think I'm missing something.
Yeah. Crazy game.
It was a stressful couple hours that I played that game.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah, that's okay. What about you, Dan? What have you been playing?
I've been playing Atlas Fallen, and if you want a game that's a little bit less stressful, it's that one. Definitely the perfect Game Pass game because there's no reason to buy it. It is the definition of mid. It's not bad. It's just, it's just very basic. It's kind of got controls that are similar to God of War, but it's an open world. So that's kind of fun. And you get to slide around on sand. But it's got that Ubisoft problem where they invent a world where they give you activities, like maybe 5 activities, almost like a Hogwarts, where it's like you can go here and you can find this treasure. You can go here, you can try and defeat this enemy. You can go here, you get a story point, which is usually a fetch quest. You can go here and then you get attacked by enemies or whatever. And then they just take that world and they Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. So it's like they introduce something and then that's it. Hope you like it because that's what you're doing for the next 40 to 50 hours, which is fine. I mean, it's a okay time. It's not revolutionizing anything. It's not doing anything new. It definitely isn't. I wouldn't consider it AAA, although the developer probably would. But it's fine. So very,
what
very.
What about the gameplay itself? Like,
what's
the
that like?
Fighting, the playing? Is it fun? Is it fun to do the
it's
battles?
Pretty fun because you've got different powers that can do different things, and it's got your close range attack and your far range attack. It really feels like God of War, where I've got a whip, which is kind of like your chains, and then you've got like a longer range attack. I mean, and you can fly up, and like if the enemy is airborne, you can go airborne and start attacking them. You can stay up there for over a minute. You get an achievement, so I'm hunting that one. But and then they're different. They have different weaknesses and stuff. So they're a handful of enemies, but that you continually play over and over and over. That's pretty good. It's fun action. It's just very basic.
Game Pass, baby. Love it for that reason.
Exactly.
So none of us said Astrobot. No one's has picked that up.
No, I've heard so many good things, and I will pick it up. I promise you. I've been so busy.
I think
and Sony's not handing us codes like for the other games we got. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like
I know
you have to buy it. I'll get it.
Is it 60 or 70?
60.
Okay.
They have a $70 version with skins, but 60.
I think one of my problems with it that I just discovered is I guess I knew this because it's pretty much an advertisement for PlayStation, but there's a lot of like PlayStation lore right? With the characters and
Yes.
stuff you run. And I just don't play a lot of PlayStation. So me playing that game, I'm probably going to run across things that I don't even know that they're significant or fun or like Easter eggs. And so I just have to, I don't know. I'll pick
think
it up
you'll
later,
know
but
more than
it's
you
not.
realize. It
Yeah.
I
does
agree.
that really, really well, at least from what I've heard and playing the previous games. Our friends like Chad have been reaching out, telling me to play it,
Yeah.
and it's killing me. I definitely need to play this game. I just haven't got the money or the time yet, but I will. I will. It's just, and I know we're heading into a fall where there's so many really good games like Dragon Age and the Mario Party, and then I've got my eyes on smaller games.
Zelda, did you mean to leave out Zelda? I think you may have. I think you may have.
Oops.
Whoops.
So it's like we've got a big fall ahead of us. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I get to squeeze it in there.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm seeing a lot of 10 out of 10s out there, so
Yeah.
that's
No.
crazy.
I
Crazy.
know. I
Crazy
will get it. I will get it. But I definitely want to talk PlayStation, but not Astrobot, not
Yeah.
good things. I want
Oh.
to talk about the crazy headlines they've been making this week for the insane price of the PlayStation 5 Pro. So let's jump into the headlines of the week. As everyone is probably aware by now, on Tuesday, Sony introduced the PlayStation 5 Pro at $700. It was definitely sticker shock. Now, of course, the machine is a nicer console that does more bells, more whistles, more pixels, more frames. But is it really worth the price at $700, especially considering the fact that it doesn't come with a disk drive or a stand at all? First, before we jump into the details, what is your quick reaction on this, guys?
Redunculous. So, I don't know if you're a Drag Race fan. There's a GIF of Tatiana, who's one of the Drag Race queens, who just says choices. Choices. They made some choices. And
Choices were made.
they're gonna have to live with those choices.
My initial thought is, what the fuck is Sony thinking?
Well, I'm glad you asked because in follow-up articles, people have been asking the same thing. And the community collectively is trying to say, what's going on here? First off, it's clear that this $700 price tag is not for the average consumer. They are obviously targeting someone who's much richer. The whales, this elusive group that pretty much pays for all of these microtransactions, and the super fans that are going to save up and kind of get this thing. I don't know if this thing's really for you and me. And then there was an interesting article I wanted to share from IGN that says PS5 Pro at $700, quote, lack of competition made it an easier decision for Sony to run with a higher price point. So this was interesting because they almost blamed it on Xbox.
Oh, I think they did blame it on Xbox. They absolutely did.
Yeah, exactly. This is coming from, let's see, Wesley Poole. Wesley Yinpool at IGN, and I'm skipping through halfway through the article, but it says, according to one prominent analyst, there are a number of factors that have contributed to Sony going for $700 and relatively even higher in Europe and Japan, which must be noted. Piers Harding Rolls, games industry analyst at Amper, said PS5 Pro pricing reflects Sony's adjusting strategy to protect its margin. That is, it's unwilling to sell consoles at a loss. Supply chain inflation, and crucially, quote, a lack of direct competitor in its mid-cycle upgrade compared to the last generation, where Microsoft was preparing the Xbox One X. The lack of competition means it's an easier decision for Sony to run with a higher price point to protect its existing margin, Harding Rules added. For most of the prospective PS5 consumers, the standard edition will represent the value and the sweet spot, and this will be the premium. It's worth digging into this post during the last generation because Microsoft took on Sony's dominant PlayStation 4 with a number of Xbox One variants. And then essentially...
So this was this IGN, this was his opinion, or this came from someone at Sony who said this?
He's reporting on the analyst that it's their opinion.
The analyst said this.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well,
So the analyst is saying, Sony is saying, look what you made us do, Xbox. Look what you made us do.
look at us crank out a $700
Exactly.
system. My response to that, though, and I had this, if you wouldn't mind for 1 second, entertain this theory. I think Phil Spencer is out here playing 4D underwater chess and allowing Sony to shoot themselves right in the foot by turning themselves into kind of the laughing stock of the industry right now, revealing this kooky $700 diskless system that, in my opinion, isn't even for enthusiasts that would potentially buy it. It is such an outlandish machine and so expensive. I don't even see I mean, like a total Sony fanboy biting on this, because it just literally doesn't make sense.
So this is where I come in. My old man eyes with my thick mole glasses was looking at comparisons of the two, showing PlayStation 5 now and the PlayStation Pro. I can't tell the difference between the two looks. I cannot see the difference between the 60 FPS and the 30 FPS. I can't see it. So I'm certainly not going to spend $700 for something I can't see.
It is.
I agree.
Yeah.
But this also begs the question of who is. And just to wrap up the article that I was just mentioning, the part that I was looking for was the quote, the analyst expects the PS5 Pro to sell around 13 million units by 2029, which, if true, would be similar to the PS4 Pro. I'm guessing that's where they're getting their numbers from. That console is estimated to have sold around 12% total for PS4 sales. So
what was the price on that? Do we remember what the price on that PS4 Pro was? No, I don't know either.
I think it was no, I don't even remember.
I don't know.
I really don't see I don't see the value between these two systems. I don't even think comparing the PS4 Pro is worthy, because for one thing, I don't think the PS5 base console has been taken advantage of like the PS4 during that life cycle had been. And so we're essentially at a point where I think the PS5 still needs to progress, and we're getting a console that is so astronomically priced that it just feels like a step back where we should be going, which is taking the base console and making progress there.
Agreed. But I think that, their greed is showing. And unfortunately, it's not just on their console. One thing that people aren't reporting that also is kind of strange, they bumped up the price of the DualShock controllers by $5. So they went from $75 to $80 for the same controller. They didn't update it. They didn't make any changes. They didn't give it bells and whistles or more frame rate, but they're charging you more money for it. So it's like, what's going on here? It's insane.
I really don't know. And this is also the controller that is plagued by stick drift issues. I've had two that have had stick drift, and it is crazy.
I think there's an ointment for that.
There hopefully is. Sony could use some. They might need a.
I'm surprised you're telling everybody that, Matt.
I know. I should probably I should keep that private for next time. This is just a wild turn of events, and it really bugs me that they're removing the disk drive. That really is insane. I know.
Funny you mention that, because that's what the scalpers are jumping on right now too. So if you tried to go to Amazon or Best Buy to buy these disk drives, good luck. They're out of stock. And the reason why now scalpers are jumping in, you can still get one at Walmart, by the way, I just checked. But scalpers are anticipating an increase in those purchases, and they're trying to corner the market. And now they've bought everything in stock that are waiting with bated breaths and licking their chops to get their hands on your cash when it comes to people who are upgrading to the new console because they don't have a disk drive and they're going to need one. So that sucks.
Totally sucks.
I guess. Wait, hang on a second. I got to go online. No, I also want to add something that I love me some Paul Tassi from Forbes. He put out an article that I just want to read a little bit of, because he was talking about GTA 6. And he says, for some, the appeal of a PS5 is the idea that it would be the best piece, the PS5 Pro, the best piece of hardware to play the upcoming GTA 6. No doubt, which is going to be one of the biggest video game releases of all time. But we have truly no idea what a PS5 Pro may be able to enhance there. And the idea that you would be running GTA 6 at 60 FPS when it's 30 everywhere else seems to be almost impossible, as this is a fully next gen, resource intensive third party game. And we already know that the Pro has limits on frame rate with some older games, which was part of the discussion when we had the release. So he pulled something from Digital Foundry, which had a conversation with IGN, and they said, and this is a clip from that, or a quote from that, no, Grand Theft Auto games have always run complex simulations that push the CPU hard, which is why every GTA game has initially launched on their target platforms at 30 FPS or lower. The PS5 Pro uses the same CPU as the PS5, and it would be extremely challenging to hit 60 FPS in the base PS5 version when the base is targeting 30 FPS. This isn't a GPU problem, it's a CPU problem. So if you're buying it for GTA, it's going to probably look exactly the same as everywhere else.
That's such a good point, because we all know it's software that moves hardware. So what is the software here that's going to move this? Because like you said, GTA is the biggest game. It's going to be the biggest entertainment launch in history next year. And if this thing can't do anything different, is there any reason to buy this thing at all?
It doesn't seem to make sense in the slightest. Like, why? I mean, unless there's honestly, I don't know. Like, maybe
Unless the console blows me, I'm really not interested in this purchase.
I mean, there's potential that there's that, like they were talking about the PSSR, that frame rate AI situation. Unless that comes out and is like incredible and works way better than expected, potentially that could do something along the lines. But it's like, now you're expecting a consumer to buy a $700 console and then I don't know, like potentially there's rumors that the GTA 6 is gonna be $100. So you're gonna have an $800 price tag out the door if you want to play those two. And that is just crazy to me. And theoretically, that is also why they're delaying the PC release too, to potentially push this $700 machine initially before they released a PC, which
it's wild. And I just two other thoughts I want to share before we move on, though, is one, this is why we need Microsoft to be on their game. I'm not saying the market is asking for a pro machine, so I'm not going to blame this one on Microsoft. If anything, I think the market is probably asking for a handheld, and there I am kind of blaming Microsoft because they know it, they've said it themselves, and yet they still have yet to release anything. But they're kind of floundering, releasing their games willy-nilly all over the place, making their console not very exclusive and less attractive. And that's what Sony's getting away with. Imagine the murder that Sony's going to get away with if they're the only console in the market. And that makes me really scared. One. The second thing
what
is,
you made me do, Xbox. Look what you made me do.
Right? Calm down, Taylor Swift. And then the second thing that's making me a bit nervous is, what is this saying about the next generation of consoles that are going to come out in like 3 years or so? Are they going to be $700? Are we setting a new precedent in terms of price point that the market's going to be putting up with? Boy, I sure hope no one buys this machine.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. And to me, I just, again, still at $700, you're pretty much better off buying a PC at that price. I know that
I agree.
It's just, you might as well, like, you're not far off. For $750, $800, you can get a PC that's going to blow some consoles out of the water. So
and you're not going to have subscription service fees to play online with your buddies. You're going to get lots of free games from Steam, much cheaper games from Steam. Yeah, there's a lot of pluses.
It's going to be a big shift. And on top of that, you're not going to be locked to games that are going to be exclusive to PlayStation in that library. You're going to be able to play legacy games from Xbox, and from PlayStation. It's really opening a door to where I think people are going to start wading into the PC waters.
I agree. I think it will too.
I have one more thing that I just want to add, and that is I really do think, especially looking at the graphics comparison between the two consoles, that we've just hit a peak of graphics. I don't know how much better you can get with them, how much better. So the software has to get better. These games have to get better.
Yep.
Now, if you're going to have a game that has some like, again, my lover Baldur's Gate 3, something that, requires a lot of processing power to do something really special in it, that's where you now get me at maybe wanting a more powerful console. Because for my eyes, we've hit the max of what I can see.
I agree. And to be honest with you, I don't understand why anyone needs a PS5 Pro when they're still making all these games to work on the PS4. No one's making PS5 games yet, and still they're trying to cash in on a Pro. F that.
That's funny because that just did you notice the games they were showcasing?
Yes.
The Last of Us 2,
yes,
Ratchet and Clank, and what was the other one? I was just like, these games have been around for years, like multiple generations.
They're on PS4.
Yeah, like why they chose to show off those games, I'll just never understand. There's so much more to it. It's just I don't know, such a miss.
I just hope this thing doesn't sell.
I hope so too. I really do.
Moving on. Speaking of games that didn't sell, we've got another story about Sony's Concord molding.
Oh, yes. So this was just a quick thing. We talk so much about owning our games digitally versus owning them physically. So this came from Kotaku. Ethan Gatch, I hope I have that pronounced correctly. He wrote an article and he said, Concord servers officially went offline last Friday on September 6th. The always online hero shooter, which launched on August 23rd, became unplayable at that point. But Sony didn't stop there. The company has since taken the unprecedented step to also remove the game entirely from players' PlayStation accounts. They write, "Thank you for being a value PlayStation customer," a notification read. "Live services for Concord went offline 9/6. The game is not playable, and as a result, we have removed this content from your account. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. With refunds being automatic, there seems to have been no real way for players to retain access to the game if they owned it digitally. It's not surprising that Sony is reevaluating the game and its future after it struggled to find an audience at launch, with some reports estimating the first-party Sony game sold as little as 25,000 copies. But attempting to remove the game entirely and effectively unrelease it, it goes even further than just removing online matchmaking support. Games increasingly get delisted from digital storefronts all the time as license agreements expire or newer versions are released, but even in those cases, players usually still have the ability to download and open the game they originally bought. And in this case, you buy it digitally, Sony went into their account and deleted it, which means what stops them from doing that from anything else? And that really scared me. Granted, I talk about this all the time. I still buy my games digitally. I'm part of the problem.
Me too.
Just because I'm lazy and don't want to go to the store and wait in line and go and talk to people and all that stuff. But that is such a precedent that they went into everyone's account and removed the game. It's crazy.
That is wild. That is scary. Knowing that they have the power to do that and you don't really it's just a reminder that you don't own anything.
Nope.
And again, so scary. They're coming. They're setting it up. The PS5 Pro, no disc. And guess what? Good luck getting your hands on a disc drive. I mean, that thing's going to be completely sold out everywhere. And this is just the beginning of what seems like a completely, like, it's the Wild West of the digital game and the licenses that they can just revoke anytime they choose. It's scary. Like, it's like, if they don't like you having it, you're just gone. They're gonna take it away.
So the only caveat I say on this whole thing is obviously people wouldn't be able to play it because the servers are offline. So
Right.
no servers, you can't play an online game. So it makes sense that, okay, so all right, we'll remove it from your account. You can't play it anyway, so who cares? But then you look at, well, a game like Overwatch. Overwatch came out, Overwatch 2 came out, Overwatch 1 gone, completely gone. Can't play that game ever again. Overwatch 2 took it over. So what's to stop them from putting a sequel out to Core Keeper, which I just talked about? Core Keeper 2's out. Oh, we want you to play Core Keeper 2, so we're just going to remove access to Core Keeper 1 now. You can't play that game ever again. Who cares? You're going to play the sequel anyway. What stops them from doing that? I don't know. Is it legal? I guess there's lawsuits that could be involved in that, but who knows?
Yeah, it's wild. Definitely digital rights is a scary thing when it comes to games.
Yep.
Oy.
That's my rant.
No, that's definitely
really
a good
good
rant
one.
and a good point and a good reminder that we don't own anything.
Yep.
Especially as these games continually get updated over and over. It's not even the same game that we initially bought. One game that's definitely that sounds like is Helldivers 2, because it sounds like it's getting a really good update. So a little bit of good news here. Lord, you had that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is from IGN's Wesley Yinpool. Arrowhead is lifting the lid on the game's hotly anticipated 01.001.007 update with an early look.
Wait, what update was that?
Yeah,
I
need to know the number.
Oh God, I'm like, why did they have to do that? Yeah, so basically an early, they listed a lot of patch notes, but this is the big one that I think is most anticipated. So it says this patch, which Arrowhead hopes will make significant changes to the PC and PS5 co-op action game and bring its disgruntled community back on its side, launches September 17th. But before then, we know Arrowhead's plan to rebalance flamethrowers, one of the more contentious weapons in the game. So this is the big one here. Flamethrower damage is increased by a huge 33% with the release of the patch, Arrowhead confirmed, and the flame weapon armor penetration is increased. Flamer mechanics will be reverted to the state before the escalation of freedom update.
Basically to what they were before they super nerfed them. So
exactly,
flamethrower mains are going to be super pumped because their favorite weapon is coming back.
Exactly. And there's some other balancing changes here. So that's the big one. And I think, is it enough to make it?
It's not. But that new Warbond is looking pretty good. Why don't you hit us with that one?
Yeah. So we have this is also coming from different Wesley Yinpool article. So Arrowhead also revealed the premium Warbond dubbed Chemical Agents alongside a September 19th release date. So mark your calendars. While Chemical Agents does not include any new weapons, it's a little weird. And it adds 2 stratagem variants, the TX-41 sterilizer, which lets you spray gas at the terminids and automatons, and the guard dog's dog breath, which is a corrosive gas sprayer. And in keeping with the alien exterminator theme, the G4 gas grenade, which covers the whole area in a cloud of noxious fumes. As you expect, the Warbond also adds new armor, which has advanced filtration passive, which gives the player resistance to the gas clouds they'll be generating.
So. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm...
Yeah, new capes, new patterns, new emotes, which includes the co-emote natural gas extractions. You get another player to pull your finger, which is
that's
really
fun.
funny. I know. So
you get it. It's just really fun, lighthearted, good play on gas. It's a good,
it is
type of weapon or stratagem.
Is this one sponsored by Chipotle or Taco Bell? They should really have some sort of sponsorship here,
right?
It should be. I mean, they're missing out on a good little opportunity right there.
Exactly.
It's cool. I'm stoked. I think it is. I think the best way to get the players back on their side is to, give those weapons. I mean, especially the flamethrower, which is really fun. I actually had probably the most fun with that weapon out of my whole Helldivers 2 experience.
I'm still holding out for new enemies. Like we talked about the aquatic illuminate. I'm waiting for them.
I agree with you, and I think weapon buffs or reverting weapons back to their original state is a positive, but it's not a new weapon, and that is where we need to be going. Arrowhead, come on, like
Agreed.
let's go. I really also am waiting. This is just a side note. I need them to hire some new folks to the team so they can get these things moving. I think, is it still a 3-person team? Because the last I heard, it's like wild to me.
There's no way it could be. No,
it's not a 3-person team.
There's no way it could be.
Are you sure?
That's crazy.
I thought it was like really, really small. The last I heard.
Okay, no, that's not.
No. Dang. Okay. Well,
computer says no.
Computer says no.
Oh, well, in that case,
No way, that's crazy.
They need to bulk it up no matter what. I think they need to, they still need to capitalize on this game's success, and PlayStation needs the win. And we are just, it's just looking bad. So right now it's like, let's go. Let's make it happen.
I don't know. Taking a look at our last TikTok short, a lot of those comments, people saying they are not going back to this game. People saying it's dead with
We'll
see. With the Warhammer game out, which we're going to talk about in a second, and some other games coming down the pipeline. I don't know if any updates are even going to get people to come back to this game.
I know.
See. They say that because they're surly. Also, I checked, by the way, Lord, and Arrowhead has over 100 employees. 3 would be shockingly ambitious for this game. Although sometimes the amount of bugs that the software does have, you would assume it was 3 people.
Yeah.
But seriously. I'm telling you, yes, the audience is a little bit surly now. But the second that new enemy drops, I'm telling you, it's going to turn things
people
around.
Come back.
I have faith.
Right.
I have faith. I have faith.
Yeah. I do too.
Let's go. Moving on, and speaking of things not turning around or people not coming back, there's a story about a former Sony president in Europe that talked to developers.
Yeah, so this is I mean, it's going to feel like this is a huge Sony bashing episode, which it kind of is.
This is only fair that we made fun of Microsoft a lot.
That's true. But PC gamer Joshua Wolins wrote this story up, and I saw it around Twitter all week. So former Sony Computer Entertainment Europe president Chris Deering, who just guested on an episode of the My Perfect Console podcast, was asked about his take on the seemingly dire state of the games industry. Deering answered that it's painful. I don't think it's greed. I think it's just an overexuberance that was kindled and fueled by the knock-on effect of the pandemic and the supply chain restrictions that followed. 79-year-old Deering was president of SCEE from 1995 to 2005. Here's the kicker, though. This is what really got people upset and what caught my eye. It's still where the action is, and it's like the pandemic, continued Deering, but now you're going to have to figure out how to get through it. Drive an Uber or whatever. Go off to find a cheap place to live and go to the beach for a year. But keep up with your news and keep up with it, because once you get off the train, it's much harder. But the people paying the price of this hangover aren't, in general, the people who made the decision to hire up half the earth based on disastrously short-term thinking. These Chris Deerings of the world are not clearing their desks and losing their salaries. It's the animators, artists, programmers, and other workers who do the hard and often invisible graft of actually assembling the games that have the brunt of these issues. And just today, we got another announcement of some layoffs happening at Microsoft. Yep. So it's a problem that's continually happening.
Yeah,
but anyway, I just thought that was extremely tone deaf of these like top of the line people just saying, "Oh yeah, just go to the beach for a year. Just do that. Just be fine. You'll be fine. Just run an Uber. You'll be okay."
That is so wildly out of touch. It's offensive. The fact that we could just go to the beach for a year. That.
I mean, granted, we live 7 miles from the beach, but I only go there once every few years anyway.
Agreed.
And also, just when you look at this smug picture of this guy, you're just like, I want to punch you in the face. Like, you're saying this, like, my gosh, like, come on, dude. Like, it's
let
clear
them
that
eat cake. It's very let them eat cake.
it's
Good
very
call.
much.
It totally is.
There's definitely a disconnect there, and like that's the thing. Why these people say this stuff and not like think it's going to be a huge deal is amazing to me. Like
because they're insulated. There's no consequences, especially for him. He's not going to get fired from anything. He has no consequences, so he literally thinks these things. Like that's the way I see it. Like this is his opinion, and he wants people to know it.
Drive an Uber. Like, come on, dude. Ugh. The worst.
I agree. That's completely out of touch. Speaking of things that are out of touch, though, physical copies of Total Warhammer 2, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, excuse me.
There we go.
Are nowhere to be seen. Now, this game had a huge launch over the weekend, especially when it was in its preview, and put up some really huge numbers, expecting people expecting to grow even more. And it did when it was in full release. But those players were all digital and not physical. Lord, you had this story for us.
Yeah. So I had to do a little sleuthing myself, a little investigative reporting, because it all started. Let me give you the full breakdown. It all started with
Picture
this $50 Best Buy gift card in my hand because I had my birthday. And I'm like, you know what? It just makes sense. I should buy, Space Marine 2. I'll buy it on the PS5. Like, no problem. It came out on Monday. They're gonna.
I was expecting review this week. Lord, where is it?
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm gonna get a physical copy. So I look at Best Buy and I'm like, wait, it says it's sold out. Why is it saying sold out? Like, that's insane. And then I look a little deeper. The reviews are 1 star on this game, and there are about 15 reviews. People are saying, I pre-ordered this game, never even came in. I don't have there's no copies anywhere to be found. I'm like, this is so weird. Why don't I go to Amazon and like see if there's an Amazon copy, because Amazon definitely has it sold out there too. So then I talked to Dan about it today. I'm like, hey, there's like a shortage of this game. Like, and people are also talking about it on Reddit. They're like, dude, there's no copies anywhere. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to call GameStop, both my local GameStops. I'm like, hey,
I was telling Lord, I'm like, Lord, you need to do some investigative analysis for us.
I'm like, I will. I call them up. They say, guess what? We only got 2 copies for our pre-orders. So people are still waiting who pre-ordered the game at the GameStop. So I'm like, okay, there's the physical game is nowhere to be found. Super strange. I can't find one. I don't know what to make of this. It is a strange coincidence. I think it's weird that there's a diskless system coming our way that's going to be diskless, and you're not going to be able to get physical media anymore. And Concord is being removed from your system, and we can't get Warhammer 40K physically anymore. I think it is very strange. And they really had no ETA on when it's going to come in. They just said it'll show up when it shows up, and we still have pre-orders to fulfill. So that's kind of it. I'm like, that is so strange. So I just thought it was really weird. And not a lot of people are talking about this.
Yeah. Is this breaking news? Have you seen it covered by anybody?
No, I haven't seen it
Matt
breaking.
Lord?
This is a Matt Lord exclusive.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I mean, there's just like a lot of people are saying there's people in the Warhammer 40K subreddit going off. It's like, yeah, I ordered the gold version from Target. It's like they can't get it. It's like, and now people are saying they need to wait. It says it does exist on disc as far as I know, but retailers don't have copies for whatever reason. They never came in. I ordered 1 copy from Walmart online as an example.
Yeah, that's so strange. I'm wondering if it's delayed or the numbers that this game put up were much bigger than most people anticipated. Yeah. This is coming from the Wesley Yinpool again from IGN, and he says, Space Marine 2 sees highest concurrent player ever for a Warhammer 40,000 game on Steam. And skipping down later in the article, he says, Space Marine 2 saw a huge 24-hour peak of concurrent player count of 225,690 on Steam. The highest peak ever for a Warhammer 40,000 game on Valve's platform, along with a very positive user review rating, which, like you said, was going to change. Indeed, Space Marine 2 is now the most played Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer game ever on Steam. To put the launch into context, Space Marine 2 knocked Total Warhammer 3's 166,000, which is where I'm guessing they were estimating and making copies for.
Yeah.
So it beat their peak concurrence into second place. And this puts it up there in terms of one of the biggest game openings, not the biggest, but it is a huge game opening for the game on the Steam platform. So my assumption is with an opening this big, people just snapped up all of the copies, and maybe they didn't anticipate it, because if stores are only getting 2 copies in, maybe, they just didn't have as much confidence as they should have.
Yeah. Agreed.
Boom, crack the case. White Hill on it.
All right, there we go, and we're all, and the case closed. Wipe the hands are done.
I don't know. That's just
our
pure
job is
speculation.
no. I think that's probably correct, and I do think, like it says, the numbers don't lie. People are buying it digitally on Steam, and I think that's just where the players are going, ladies and gentlemen. It's a big Steam jump.
Yes. So that begs the question, are you going to wait for a physical copy, or are you going to finally,
I
just
think I'll
pull the trigger and get it on Steam?
I think I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I'm not quite yet done. I want to see if I can, find it somewhere. I think it's like now I'm kind of on the hunt. I'm not going to pay any exuberant amount of money for it, but I will take a look and try to find something somewhere. So I'll keep everyone updated.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Please do. Speaking of updates and questions, let's jump into our listener emails of the week. First topic for discussion. I believe, Lord, this was you.
Yeah.
We're speaking of PC and gaming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this aligns perfectly with the PS5 Pro talk. So I just want to know, boys, what would fully convert you to PC? And I know this is coming from, devout console players such as yourselves and myself up until the point where I got it. So I'll lend my thoughts on what converted me once you guys share your takes. Why don't you go ahead, Molly?
Mine's pretty simple. I sit at a computer all day long, for the most part, and I don't want to sit at a computer to play games. So
mouse drop right there.
If you make it easy for me to hook a PC up to the television, and I'm on a controller and I'm playing games that are well optimized for a controller play, then I'm interested in PC. Other than that, I want to sit on my couch and play games. I don't want to sit at my computer desk. And that's really the barrier for me.
I agree with everything he said. And I think it's only like Valve or somebody like that who has to make these machines and promise me that they're going to work before I'm able to invest in it. I love my PC. I do have PC games, but I don't play them as often as console for that very reason. I do want to sit back and relax, and it is a pastime. And just, PCs can't really be trusted to work every single time. The updates, the viruses, the controller inputs, the console just solves all that for me. And when they can promise me that, I'm there.
Yeah, well, I think, gents, we might not have to wait too much longer with the success of the deck. I really think Valve will be working towards what you guys are envisioning, where it's going to be, something that I envision.
It'd be smart.
Like a GameCube, and you can hook it up, because it's really easy now to hook up a controller to the Steam Deck. It's pretty much plug and play. But for me, what really put me over the edge was once I got the PS5 Pro, this generation of consoles in particular, I was really jumping into settings and trying to optimize frame rates, and I was in the settings a lot more than I expected to be. And I was like, okay, I need to get like a 144 hertz monitor because I want to get 120 frames on Call of Duty, and then I wasn't quite getting it there. And I was like, I really enjoy messing with settings, I'm realizing. And once you get into the PC aspect, that is you have an unlimited amount of settings to mess with, which is so satisfying in a weird, disturbing way, because I just love messing with the settings. I'm like, this is fun. You can really dig in deep and kind of optimize to kind of whatever your preferences are. And that's
Well,
really
I'm gonna chime in there. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to. I don't want to read about that. I don't want to learn about that. I don't want to do one bit of work on that. So,
and I kind of felt like when I was saying that, I was like, this is striking a chord with these gents. Like, this isn't anything
Wrong
they want to
chord.
do. Yeah, the completely wrong chord. And that was, and then, I'm jumping back to the PS5 Pro. I just think once you're getting to the $700 console, you guys, it's going to be inevitable. I really think people are going to just not see the value in a console anymore, and that's going to blur those lines a lot. I think we're going to have a very interesting next gen of consoles where I think a lot of people are just like, I'll just buy a pre-made PC or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, definitely potential for it. We'll see.
For sure. We'll see.
Moving on. This week, Betty Poop writes into goodplayingwithyou@gmail.com, just like you can, and says, "Hi, gents. Wanted to ask about games that didn't quite click with you. I recently bought the new Saints Row on sale. I'm sorry for your purchase. And your loss.
I'm so sorry, Betty Boop. Oh,
It's Betty Poop, not Betty Boop.
Oh, Betty Poop. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Betty Poop.
Yeah, but it wasn't just as good as the first three. Which I did. I managed to finish it because it's short and poorly made. Oh, she knows. But made me wonder, are there any games that you guys quit after only playing for 1 hour?
Oh, Malding?
Yes. And I'll you know what? I forgot about that game, but that is one of the games that I quit after playing an hour. Was that new Saints Row? But that was not one of my choices. My first choice is Redfall. So technically I played longer than an hour because we played a weekend together. I think we may have only played one weekend night, but that was the last time I ever played that game.
Yeah.
I think we played maybe a few hours that night, and then after that I have never played it again. It had such potential, but the execution was just so bad that I never wanted to go back in and play that game again. So that was, I mean, I have no other details of it. If you've played it, you probably understand. If you like it, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you that you like it. The characters, there was some opportunity there with the characters. My guy had like a translocation ability that I actually really loved and was a lot of fun to play. But that girl that you played, Dan, that just made an elevator and you bounced off of it, man, that was so boring. Oh my gosh, I felt so sorry for you having to choose that character.
Well,
but
no,
yes, I'll just never play that game again.
Everybody could use my elevator, so it's like, well, great, you get the benefits of my power and you get your own power. And my girl's assed out, so I was like, oh man, everyone gets to do cool stuff but me.
Yeah, it was no fun. Lord, did you play it?
No, I did not play that one.
You should. It's fantastic.
I heard some bad reviews, and I just said, no, I'm not gonna give into that one. It looked real bad. I know that was sort of that hurt Microsoft. So that's a yikes.
I want to jump on the next one though, because this game's kind of random, so it's not as exciting or whatever. But I was on Game Pass this weekend. That's how I ended up playing Atlas Falls. And I ended up playing a game called Snow Runner. Have either one of you heard of this or played it?
No.
It's a game about vehicles in the snow. Surprise.
Where they run?
Drive. No, that's the problem.
Oh.
They don't. They get bogged down in the mud, and you have to use your winch to pull them out. And then you have to, I don't know. It was so tedious and so boring. I was like, who the hell are these games for? I never figured it out, and I moved on pretty quickly. And that was my experience with Snow Runner.
Oh,
Lord, what do you got? I'm done with it. I don't even talk. That's how over that game is. I don't even want to talk about it. Lord,
honestly, my first one, in this case, games that just sucked and I had to put it down after an hour, was Cyberpunk on the base PS4. That was
I think Maldon's the same.
Bad. Oh, Malding, you're the same on that?
Yeah, I didn't have it on a base, but I don't want to interrupt you. But I also I was one of the people that got a refund on it because I thought it was so bad.
He told me, and I got a refund before even playing it because Malding told me how bad he was. So upset, I was like, "Shit, I'm not even going to turn it on." And I got my refund.
The game was so janky on the base PS4. It did not run really. So it was. I was like, okay, I see what they're trying to do, and the gunplay was so clunky and bad, and nothing. It just looked so bad. I got a refund, but I will say that I did come back and play it after it got all its different updates, and I did wind up really
I think we all
liking
did.
it.
Yeah, we all
Which was
did.
great. But man, when it first
When
came
it was
out on that base PS4, it was on the struggle bus. That hurt. That hurt my eyes and soul, unfortunately.
So I played it on the Series X, I think was my timelines are a little off, but for me it was the pop-in. It was not, you'd walk down a street and then all of a sudden bushes would start popping in, like, right. It drove me nuts.
Ugh.
That was the
pop-ins a horrible. That's like a pet peeve of mine when it comes to games. It drives me nuts.
Agreed.
So I'm glad that Dan's was really quick, because it left time for the argument we're about to have, which is one of the worst games I feel like I've ever played, is Friday the 13th. And I know Dan
my God, he just said
loves this game.
He just said it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't see him here next week, this is the reason why.
Yeah.
I popped in and played this game with you and a group of your friends, and it was one of the most miserable experiences of playing a game I've ever had.
Why?
The graphics, terrible. The gameplay, terrible. The friends I was playing with it, even terrible. Like, everything about it was so bad. The only thing I could say that I liked about this game was that it did location-based audio. So if you couldn't be in a party, I think, and if you could only hear people, if you were in the proximity of another character, which I think is genius. I think a lot of games should employ that sort of mechanic. But other than that, it was one of the most miserable experiences playing a game I've ever had. And I would say, and I'm happy that it went out of business, and I'm happy you can't buy it, because you would be robbed. The industry is robbing you if you tried to buy that game.
I just know Dan.
What did you think about it, Dan?
Dan is obsessed.
I loved it. Are you kidding me? To be a teenager in the woods with your friends and hang out, and then get one by one you get murdered and picked off. It was just fun. Yes, the graphics were not so great, but it was just the teamwork and the camaraderie, and just, I grew up with those movies, so it was fun being inside them. And you have no imagination and no heart, and therefore you don't even deserve a game that's as good as Friday the 13th in its heyday. It's dead now.
Wow. Incredible. Dan, you want to go next again?
If you don't mind, because yours are better than mine. But this one might sting a little bit for molding. I'm hoping, at least.
Oh, okay.
One of the ones that I bounced off really quickly was Persona 5 Royale. I think that was the one that came to Xbox, and boy, oh boy. The graphics look really flashy, and they're definitely unique. I can see they've kind of used them in their other games, but this is the first one I got my hands on. And I'd love to say that I played this game, except that there were so many cutscenes and talking that I don't even know what the game was about. I don't even know how to play the game. I was just like, you know what? I do not have the time for this. So I bounced out of that one as fast as I could, because while it looked very stylish, and I do respect people's love for the series, I understand that it is a treasured game and that a lot of people love it. And so I don't want to slight anything unless it's Molding's game that he's interested in, because then I'm happy to insult it. But it just was not a game that resonated with me. I couldn't get through the cutscenes to even get to the game. And I knew that if the intro was like that I wasn't going to be able to get through the rest of the game.
It's a game with a lot of work, and I don't necessarily think that the gameplay is worth all the work that you put into it. There's something about mixing the personas and finding new ones that I really liked. That was fun, but yes, it is a tedious game. Yes,
definitely. I can see what you're saying. I never got my hands on Persona 5, but like 3, it was pretty, kind of like that. So I've played some previous titles, so I see what you're saying. My second game, Dan, you're gonna like this one because I played this one with you. Back 4 Blood. That zombie game was not that fun. We played about an hour. It was a miss. It was a miss. We played, I think we played like 30 minutes. Like, we played twice, and I was like, this game like sucks. Like, I don't understand. Like,
Is
the
that
little
the Left 4 Dead sequel?
Yes.
Sort of
It was
one? Oh yeah,
supposed to be
terrible
Blitz-
game.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're totally separate. Let's not put them in the same genre.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh,
It
sorry.
was supposed to be the spiritual successor. They had promised
Yeah.
so much, and then what happened? Ah, my
It-
beautiful boy.
honestly, like, I don't really know. I just thought it just was like lacking like soul, I guess. I don't
Fun.
know.
Fun.
Fun, soul.
Yeah.
It just we played it a few. I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like, this is kind of it. I liked the idea of like the camp that you set up at, that you like resupplied and you hung out and you could chat. That was cool, but then
So
otherwise,
you're saying you liked not playing the game, the
Yeah.
parts where we were not playing the actual
Yeah,
You
we
just
game.
weren't
like being
playing.
on Xbox Live and in
Yeah.
a party.
Hanging out. Yes,
honestly,
exactly.
I think that was like we were just hanging out, chatting, and I was like, "This is actually cool. I like this. It feels like we're camping a little bit." And then it was just like the game was just like, "Oh my gosh!" It's like brain dead. And so I think that one, yeah, those two are like the top tiers for me for sure.
Good picks, except for molding,
Yeah.
in which case you're totally wrong. And
Yeah.
I couldn't be more
Yeah.
right. Couldn't
Yeah,
be
you
more
couldn't be
right.
more wrong. But on that note, we need to wrap things up. So please make sure you subscribe to our socials, and on YouTube, make sure that you hit that like button. And on behalf of the Good Playing With You crew, Matt Lord, Matt Molding, and myself, Dan Whitehill, have a great weekend. And as always, good playing with you.
Good playing with you.
Good play with you.
Molding. Really? Friday the 13th, you had to go there?
Yeah,
Of course,
you're
that's a
right.
terrible game.
I don't know. I don't know.